Hello everybody, welcome to my next video. I hope that I have a good one planned for you today. I may be kind of rambling because there's a lot of dots I'm trying to connect and everything, but I hope that I will win your confidence and that you'll stick around and you'll hit that like button and subscribe and stay around to see what I'm musing about in my future videos. But today I wanted to start out by asking you a question. Have you seen the movie? It's a 2017 movie by Jordan Peele, and it's called Get Out. I kind of feel like that movie, it just kind of dawned on me during the night that movie kind of lays the groundwork of something that I'm thinking about, and that is how these rich, elite people use other people for their power and success. In the movie Get Out, it's about a young man that goes to visit his rich girlfriend's family. And then he learns some dark truths. And for some reason, it just reminded me of that the video that I did about the tall Israeli that's behind the hip hop movement or music. And that kind of reminded me of this book. If you haven't read this and that weird scenes inside the canyon, I admonish you to go and get those books. But I've been listening to all of this stuff with Candace Owens, and Dee Dee's got a podcast. And as they're talking, my brain's working, and I'm catching all of these names that constantly are popping up. But before I say all that, I believe that the music industry and some of these movies are trying to reveal things. They may be telling us a story, but they're also trying to reveal things that are going on behind the scenes. They're kind of dropping little rabbit holes, I guess you'd say, for you to go check out. And another way, though, that we learn things is through the Holy Spirit. And a few years back, right about the time before I started doing videos on YouTube, I feel like that the Holy Spirit had given me a dream. And I am not saying I'm psychic, and I'm not getting into all that dream talk and everything like that. But what I'm saying is that I think that I had heard things in my waking mind, and I believe it was the Holy Spirit kind of connected some dots while I was asleep. And I had this dream that I was in this parking garage and this big black car was chasing me down, and the next thing you know, I'm running through a city. There's lots of concrete, but I ran to a blue building, and I ran up the stairs of the blue building, and I go in, and there's a bunch of biker men, I should say, and they're serving food, and I'm looking at it, and then, I wake up and I realize that the blue building was a Masonic building. And so I started searching more about the Masons. So I will say that as you go into all of these rabbit holes and start connecting dots, you will start seeing the same patterns popping up over and over. Courtney Love has been saying some things lately, and she brought up how when she was a child, her dad got her, when she was like 4 years old, her dad gave her a drug. That goes back to this book. When it opened at 558 Clayton Street in June 1967, the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, or HAFMC, was an immediate sensation. Staffed entirely by volunteers and unauthorized by the city health department, it treated hundreds of patients a day, offering non-judgmental care for those suffering from bad trips, overdoses, STDs, and malnourishment, or for those who just needed a kind ear. Lines at the HAFMC sometimes stretched around the block with hippies waiting to ascend the creaky wooden stairs to its second-floor office. Inside, loitering was encouraged. The clinic did everything it could to advertise its psychedelic affinities. Exam rooms were painted in aqua and day-glow orange. One of them was wallpapered with a vibrant collage of peace signs, naked bodies, and hypnotic swirls. Even as Smith struggled to pay the rent and keep the cops at bay, he reveled in his creation. Few things so perfectly encapsulated the utopian ideals of the summer of love. All as faces filed in and out of the clinic that summer, Smith and his colleagues befriended the repeat visitors, and the HAFMC became a scene within a scene. It could be hard to tell the hippies apart with their long, beflowered hair, their upstart communes, their shifting legions of followers and leaders. But decades later, no one at the clinic had any trouble remembering Charlie Manson and his girls. I'm going to skip a few pages. When Roger Smith joined forces with the HAFMC to begin the ARP, and I forgot what that stands for, he was picking up where David left off, but this time the research involved people. This meant that both Smiths and Manson This meant that both Smith and Manson were often in the same place at the same time, with both Smiths having received funding from a federal institute later revealed to be a CIA front. And that's what I was getting at with that. Whew, it's getting warm in here. But Candace Owens has been dropping some tea lately, and as I was researching some of the stuff that she dropped, I kept seeing this Miss Lou Taylor that keeps popping up, and that Calvary Church. And I have been searching more into this. You know, Miss Lou Taylor was tied to the conservatorship for Britney Spears, and she tried to be for Lindsay Lohan, according to her dad. All of this is alleged. But again, you will see connections to Calvary Church, Bridges to Recovery, Mercy Ministries. And if you don't remember, or if this is your first time ever watching me, I'm sorry. I'm kind of fumbling today. But you will see that a few weeks ago, I did a video about Calvary. Well, it was the Potter's Field Church and its loose connections to Calvary Church. But again, all of these things, it's like all these hands. And when you see people with this kind of money and it's flowing round about, you will know that there's got to be higher up people that may not always be brought into the conversation, because you can't make that kind of money without there being some kind of dabbling into something evil, allegedly. But again, like I said, this Lou Taylor, she works with the Kardashians, and that's when I started to make the connection between the Jordan Peele movie and perhaps that being, the metaphor for what happened to Kanye West and other important black men. I just thought about how in the movie, here's this girl, she claims to love the man, and they talk about marriage and everything. And you think about these 3-letter agencies and such, how they will go to all kinds of lengths to reel people in. And so, like I said, it just made me think more about that movie. I may be making a loose connection, but like I said, you start reading all of this stuff and you'll see a certain country overseas having money and power being thrown our way, and all sorts of elite celebrities and spirit cooking, all this kind of weird stuff that's going on. But pastor church identification, Robert Taylor is listed as the senior pastor of Calvary Chapel, Brentwood, on the church website and bio pages. This is the direct church affiliation tied to the Taylors, Lou Taylor in particular. Lou Taylor, by marriage, is married to that Robert Taylor. She's the founder and CEO of TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, and Britney Spears' former business manager. And she is publicly described as Rob Taylor's wife in multiple reputable outlets like Vanity Fair, Variety, People, etc. And then there's, like I said, the financial donations. My dog is snoring if you hear that. Reporting during the Britney Spears conservatorship and estate dispute states that some funds payments connected to Spears or her family's related donations flowed to organizations associated with the Taylors, and that Jamie Spears at times, as her dad, Britney's dad, donated a percentage to the church run by the Taylors, reporting. And it says reporting varies on amounts and recipients. Those financial links have been flagged to several outlets and in court-related coverage. Coverage and controversy. Major outlets like Vanity Fair, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and People have covered Lou Taylor's role in celebrity management and her ties to Calvary Chapel, Brentwood, via her husband. Those pieces also discuss the controversy and scrutiny stemming from conservatorship estate management. Like I said, these people like Justin Bieber, Lindsay Lohan. You see these young kids getting caught up in this industry, and next thing you know, they're being put, I think, MK Ultra, and again, allegedly, but you see them start to fall apart. I know from being an alcoholic myself that alcohol is a spirit. When you go to a liquor store, it says wine, spirits. Now, a normal common sense thing would tell you to stay away from spirits, but yet we go and we consume spirits and pollute our bodies and our minds. I, as an alcoholic, indulged in bad behavior, and I justified and made remarks about how I was still a Christian even though I was drinking. But what really got me is the fact that one night I was asleep, and next thing you know, this dark entity was trying to drag me off of my bed. And then when I spoke to somebody that was really rooted and grounded in the truth, they point out that alcohol is a spirit. And you open your mind up to all sorts of stuff when you indulge in alcohol and drugs. And so you see people like Courtney Love and Bieber and Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan. They go trying to get treatment, and next thing you know, they have handlers. And thank goodness it looks like Justin Bieber has managed to get away from some of that riffraff. But they control these people, and they have forces behind them, and political forces, spiritual forces, and they handle these people. And when they try to get away from it, then the next thing you know, you see things happening to them. Or when they try to speak out and say what they've seen, you see them, next thing you know, they are no longer with us. But now I will say that I saw one podcast where the person was saying, and I'm sorry, my throat is just today. I saw one podcaster saying that he thinks that the reason that Courtney Love is saying some of the things she is now is because she knows her name is on a certain list. Allegedly. And speaking of the list, the E-list that everybody's been fighting about in Congress, they have 6 months to release it. 6 months is a long time to whitewash a lot of information in that list. I believe that we're not going to see the full list. Only the political enemies, maybe. But I don't believe that we will see a full list. But my goal today, like I said, I know I kind of rambled all over, but my goal today is to share with you the hands, the puppeteers behind some of these. And it involves the church. It involves the Masons, which that the Masons have a connection to Is It Real? And you see connections to politics, money. Like that old song used to say, money makes the world go round, the world go round. But anyway, the puppet masters. And so I'm hoping that with my rambling today that I've given you things to go look up. And I will put some of these little notes in the about on this video. I do hope you got something out of this video, and hope I wasn't too much all over the place, but I wanted to share. Like I said, it was like an epiphany when I thought about that Jordan Peele movie and making a connection to the Kardashians.